Right off the bat, I have to make one thing clear. I was very skeptical and cautious when it came to Final Fantasy XVI. Every piece of footage that I watched kept me interested, but something always threw me off. I'm not too sure what it was. But now I'm here to tell you that after playing the full demo twice, I have to admit that I was wrong. The demo completely took me by surprise, and I think this game is going to be a contender for Game of the Year. Okay, good. Now that that's out of the way, we can move on. But before I forget, this video will have full-on spoilers for the entire demo, including some story elements, so consider this your first and final warning. The demo itself is about 2 hours long. It takes place during the opening segment of the game, and it even allows you to transfer all of your save data to the final product so that you have to play the game's opening again. In its pure Final Fantasy fashion, it has a lot of exposition, and I don't mean that in a bad way because it's not boring. The exposition sets up the story, the lore, and I have to say, a great cast of characters. In just 2 hours, I found characters that I loved and that I hated. The demo also introduces you to its core mechanics and combat system, and it's more than enough to get you familiarized with what's to come. Upon completing the demo, a new segment opens up which allows the player to experience a later chapter. This new area is a bit shorter, I think about an hour long, and it focuses more on combat. If you've seen past gameplay showcases, it's basically the castle run that has you fight Benedicta at the end, so it's about 2 to 3 hours of this demo in total, and it only scratches the surface of what's to come.
Your Grace, please, this is no place for one such as you.
I would gladly brave hell itself to see my darling boy. Gentlemen, Rosaria thanks you for your indefatigable loyalty.
Thank you, Your Grace. We live to serve.
Joshua,
you should not be out of doors. We have discussed this.
I'm sorry.
Good day to you, Mother.
Come, Joshua. Your father will be expecting us.
Final Fantasy XVI takes place in the world of Valisthea, a realm ravaged by war, a past blight, there's political conflict, and some class issues. You play as Clive Rosfield, son of the Archduke of the Kingdom of Rosaria, and a soldier that has been given the task to protect his younger brother Joshua, who is the heir to the throne. Joshua has the power of an icon, which are the summons from past games like Ifrit and Shiva. Joshua is basically a dominant that houses the Phoenix. A dominant is a person that wields the powers and also transforms into an icon, which from what I can tell is the reason why he's the heir to the throne and not Clive. Clive is only blessed with some of the powers of the Phoenix. But again, I need to emphasize the characters in this game are incredibly written. While Clive can be a little brooding, kinda normal for some Final Fantasy games, he does show empathy towards the poor population, and the relationship between him and Joshua is very endearing. He deals with being neglected by his mother, who looks down on him for not being the true heir to the throne, while their father does his best to motivate and support Clive. It's just amazing how much story this dysfunctional family was given in such short time. The writing is simply done very well. It's definitely darker in tone and narrative than past Final Fantasy games. Apparently Game of Thrones was an influence in the story, and it shows in every way.
Take care.
Does the lion take care when he chases the hare? Or do you think me one of the latter?
No, my love. You are a lion. You're my lion.
But of course, we can't forget who the actual main character is. Is it Clive? No. Is it this bitch? No. Is it this random Final Fantasy IV reference? No, it's Torgal. Torgal is the best boy, and I mean it. Just look at him. He plays with butterflies. You can give him head pats in the final game because unless I missed it, you don't give him head pats in the demo. So if you bought this game without loving this puppy, then get a refund and put the game back on the shelf. Okay, nah, I'm just messing with you, but seriously, love the puppy. Now, as far as the rest of the story and characters go, I think the best way to end this part of the video is to say that the music in the Final Fantasy series has always been an integral part in its storytelling. Between the somber tones and opera-infused battle themes, the music that Final Fantasy emotional impact that we all expect is in this game. Just look at this brief scene with Jill for a moment, which, by the way, is also a great character.
I only wish I could save him from himself.
Clive, you...
I have another mission too. Father has given me my first command.
Well, if you're not going to pray to Metia for your safe return, I shall just have to do it for you. There's going to be another war, isn't there? Since coming here, I've begun to take peace for granted. I assumed the war between our nations would be the last. But it never really ends, does it?
No. The next war will be bigger than before.
But you'll be all right, won't you, Clive? You're a shield of Rosaria, after all, and blessed by the Phoenix.
Okay, so we all know that Nobuo Uematsu is a legend when it comes to composing Final Fantasy music, but if anyone deserves to succeed him, the composer of Final Fantasy XVI, Masayoshi Soken, is the person that 100% is right for this job. His compositions throughout the entire demo had me pumped and emotional, especially during combat. Final Fantasy XVI has many mechanics that we're used to, but introduces some new concepts to the table. First, simply walking into items and getting them automatically picked up instead of having to interact with them is a nice touch and a good quality of life feature. However, and perhaps the most innovative mechanic is the active time lore system. To put it in simple terms, instead of having to go into the in-game menu and read a long list of codex lore, you press and hold the touchpad, and this will bring up lore and character information relevant to your current location and the characters around you. Like for example, if there are slaves around you, or if Torgal and another party member is with you, you simply bring up the active time lore, ATL for short, and you can read about them and the general lore of your location. I personally think this is something that will change lore interaction with future games in general, because it's such a cool mechanic that has the player interact with their surroundings during a time that's relevant. Now I don't want to go too deep into everything else like the zones that we'll be exploring later, because I'd rather save that for a full review. But we do have a lot more mechanics coming, and it's exciting to see what's next. Combat, on the other hand, is something I really want to touch on because of two things. First, it just proves that there's a difference between seeing a trailer and actually playing a demo, because whatever skepticism I had about the combat went completely out the window once I got the chance to experience it. And second, if there is one thing that Square is known for doing, it's making combat feel different for each new title. Doesn't matter if it's turn-based or an action RPG, every combat system always feels different from one another, and it's no different here. Final Fantasy XVI is an action RPG, and it's an interesting one because it gives the player agency. Do you want to be more defensive? Screw it, go for it. Are you an aggressive player? Knock yourself out. Mind you, most of this is shown in the second part of the demo, which again is more combat focused, but it's good to see that player agency is what we're expecting for the final product. The buttons are mapped as the square button being your melee attack, which gives you a 4-hit combo, triangle is your long range spell button, circle uses an icon ability, which varies depending on which one you have equipped, X jumps, R1 dodges, L1 locks on, L2 switches the equipped icon, and holding R2 brings up more icon abilities which are mapped to the face buttons. The extra icon R2 abilities are run on cooldown once used. In the first part of the demo, you only use Phoenix as an equipped icon, but in the second part, you get to equip Phoenix, Garuda, and Titan, and you get to equip 3 icons at a time. The Titan icon gives Clive a shield and heavy attacks, whereas Garuda has Clive act more swiftly and has faster attacks. It's going to be interesting to see how players will create their own playstyle with more icons later. Winning battles gives you experience points and ability points, which you can use to give Clive more special moves and more icon abilities. Combat in general feels very responsive. Every clash and impact of Clive's sword feels great. However, the game isn't a button masher. You need to learn and adapt to enemy patterns and act accordingly. For example, I bought an ability in the Phoenix skill tree that gives Clive a ranged attack that also dispels and absorbs some enemy projectile magic. It became very handy during the fight against Benedicta. Lastly, party members are AI controlled, and you can also give Torgal commands. Now I'm going to give the demo one critique. While I loved it, I think I would be doing a disservice if I didn't make anyone aware. There are some notable frame rate drops. Oddly enough, I didn't see any frame drops from battle. They happen while exploring areas. I don't know if my footage shows, but it was definitely there. That being said, it has been confirmed that the demo runs on an older build that's 2 versions behind. The final game will be version 1.03. However, I am yet to see if the newer build will fix the performance. Quick FYI, the frame drops aren't game breaking, just in case, and it didn't hinder my experience at all. I guess the best way to end this video is to say this. The marketing for Final Fantasy XVI has been something I personally haven't seen in a while. This past weekend, Square hosted a large pre-launch event and invited some amazing content creators, both small and large. It was just so damn wholesome to see all the creators that I and others follow interact and meet for the first time to celebrate Final Fantasy. Everyone from the Sphere Hunter, Blitz, David Vincent, Yunaleska, and Maximilian Dude, everyone at that event has contributed one way or another to the Final Fantasy series. If Final Fantasy XVI did anything, it brought the community together in a meaningful and positive way. And I won't lie, the marketing kinda worked. I'm more hyped for Final Fantasy XVI than I thought I would be. At first, Final Fantasy XVI was going to be used as like a, this is just going to be my filler before Final Fantasy VII Rebirth releases. Not anymore. I was wrong, and I have a very good feeling about this one. We'll find out more when Final Fantasy XVI releases on Thursday, June 22nd on the PlayStation 5. I'll see you guys then, take care, and have a good one.
You cock.